the MiniFreak is doing something truly revolutionary. It's managed to remove the biggest friction point I've had with every other hardware synth I've tried. And this friction means you spend less time making music and more time tweaking, configuring, and troubleshooting things instead. I'll get to what is so revolutionary about it in just a few minutes. Quick disclaimer, Arturia sent me this synth so I could review it. I've had it for the past 6 months. No money changed hands. All strong opinions here are my own, and hopefully the music will speak for itself. It has 2 digital oscillators. Technically, it's a hybrid synth because the filter is analog, but honestly, I don't think that you're buying this synth for the analog filter, and I'll get to why in a few minutes. I would describe this as a macro synth, meaning it has a bunch of different synth engines that you can choose between. You have a more limited set of parameters to tweak per engine, but the engines themselves make up for a very wide total palette of sounds that you're able to make, including virtual analog, wavetable, FM, and even granular synthesis. It actually makes me think of the Syntac, which also has a lot of different synth machines to choose from, but where you have a smaller set of parameters that you can tweak per machine. It has 37 mini keys with aftertouch, no polyphonic aftertouch if that's important to you. The keys are mini keys, but honestly, they feel great. I've had the Hydrosynth Explorer and I've had a Keystep 37 in the past. Both of them, I would say, are on par with the MiniFreak. Probably would say it's as good as it gets when it comes to mini keys. This particular version is the Stellar edition, which is all black, but there's also a more traditional version with black and white keys. The MiniFreak has a flexible mod matrix that you can use to customize your sound. There are some predefined mod destinations like pitch and timbre and cutoff, but then you can assign up to 9 custom destinations as well. For example, here's a sound that I made from scratch. It already has some modulations in the matrix, but let's say I want the aftertouch to open up the filter and add more reverb. Filter cutoff is already a hard-coded destination in the mod matrix, so I scroll to it, and then I push this knob, and then I set the amount I want, and I press again. Super simple. But then aftertouch is not assigned, so this is where these buttons come in. So I take one of these assignable destinations, and I twist whichever knob I want to modulate. So in this case, it's going to be the reverb. And then it sounds like this instead when I press down on the keys. The pitch and mod strips also have a very useful mode, which turns them into 2 separate macros, where you can assign up to 4 parameters on each one, independent of the mod matrix. It's really simple. I just hold down Shift and I press Assign, and then I can assign anything to either of these macros. So for macro number 2, for example, let's say I wanted to add the filter cutoff, so it opens up a bit when I open this macro. I just twist the cutoff and I'm done. So now when I play, I can open up the filter by using the second macro. So rather than having to modulate lots of different parameters separately and remembering which ones for each sound, I can just program these macros and perform using them instead. So this makes it really easy to perform. It means that you can also have much more streamlined automation when you're automating things in the DAW, for example. By the way, I've made lots of different sounds over the course of the past 6 months. So if you're interested in a sound design tutorial, leave a comment and be sure to subscribe. I'll quickly talk about the Arpeggiator because honestly, it deserves its own dedicated tutorial. But it's a really good one, and it comes with a bunch of playful features to quite literally spice things up a bit. Here's another sound I made from scratch. You obviously have the traditional up-down order modes of the ARP, where you can select the number of octaves and things like that. But then you have this ability to add some variations to how the notes play. They call it spice and dice. It's like when I'm ordering Asian food. So you set how much spice you want with this touch strip, and then you hold down Shift and press the dice button. You also have this random octave button, which changes the order of the octaves. You can combine these different things, and it can make the ARPs more interesting. You can also record this ARP into the step sequencer and then manipulate the sequence even more. Or you can create a new sequence from scratch, even with modulations. I'll get to exactly what is so revolutionary about this synth in a few minutes, but another thing that is pretty incredible about the synth is how it sounds. Many synths tend to have an area where they're particularly strong. And if I name the area where the MiniFreak really shines, it would be in the lush pad department. But honestly, I haven't found any area where it's not great. I particularly like how it allows you to so quickly morph from one sound to the next. You can basically just open up a preset and then you can twist a couple of knobs and turn into something completely different. Let me give you an example. Here's a preset I found. Let's change it up a bit. So that was literally two things I did. I changed the release length and then I swapped the delay effect with a bit crusher instead. By the way, the MiniFreak works just fine as a general MIDI controller too. Here I'm controlling the auto filter in Ableton. So I feel like this is the perfect sound designer synthesizer for people that aren't really into sound design, but are more into just exploring. People like me. Anders and I, there's two of us making music most of the time, we made full tracks that were the result of just playing stock presets on the MiniFreak and getting inspired by them. Sometimes even the more out there preset can lead to ideas and filling gaps in the music you're making. The MiniFreak plays samples too. Not your own, unfortunately, or at least not yet, but it has a bunch of built-in samples to choose from, and you can play them through a range of sample-based engines, such as One Shot, Cloud, and other engines. Here's an example that I found. It's a preset that uses a sample to almost approach a kind of human-like voice. This is just another example of how a simple sound can become the foundation of an entire track. So what about that French Revolution? I want to make music. What I love about hardware is the immediacy, the hands-on feel of interacting with a real instrument. What I don't like is the MIDI configuration, the cables, and all the mess. And I don't want to commit to audio stems because what if I want to change the sound down the road? This is why the MiniFreak is such a game changer. I've already shown you several examples of how a synth sound can quickly turn into a full track. The thing that makes this possible is the seamless DAW integration. Because here's the thing, the MiniFreak isn't just an awesome hardware synth, it also comes with a fully digital VST counterpart. This means that the MiniFreak continues to live inside of your DAW even when you turn off the hardware synth. It really is the best of both worlds. I love hardware because of the tactile feel and interacting with an instrument. I love software because everything is digital. I don't need to mess with cables and I can just focus on making music. And there's no need to worry about keeping presets in sync because they're automatically saved in your DAW projects. And you can drop as many plugin instances into your DAW as your computer can handle. You can do sound design in standalone, and then later on you can bring it into the DAW, and vice versa. You can do sound design in the DAW, and then you can bring that to the hardware synth and perform live on stage. It's completely effortless, and that's the revolution. Let's quickly talk about pros and cons. On the pro side, well, this whole review basically covered it, but the top three would be 1, DAW integration. I think this sets the new standard. I hope other synth manufacturers take notice of this. 2, it sounds amazing. Frankly, the effects are on par with the best plugins I've used in the computer. And 3, I would say the overall approachability. Again, this reminds me so much of the Syntact. It has this kind of playful UI, it's approachable, it's broad, but not deep, but it's deep enough that you can get lost in it for hours and hours and have so much fun making music with it. On the con side, my top 3 wishes would be 1, custom samples. I wish that you could bring in your own samples into the sample engines and into custom wave tables. That'd be really nice. 2, I wish there was a way to spread the voices in the stereo field. 3, this is a small thing, but I would love to transpose the key bed. You only have 3 octaves to play with here, so I feel like that's very limiting, and I'm drawn towards the C minor scale again. But if I'm perfectly honest, my biggest wish is that Arturia would just make a larger version of the synth. 61 key, full-size key bed. I would be all over that synth. I mean, they went from MicroFreak to MiniFreak, so how about just a freak? If you're coming from the DAW world and you want to buy your first hardware synth, this would be the first synth I would recommend. In fact, this probably is a good first synth for just about anyone. But honestly, I think this could be the perfect last synth to buy as well, because it covers so much ground with these synth engines. If you want to really play the keys, again, 3 octaves of mini keys is going to be limiting. Have a think about how much you intend to play this as opposed to sequence it. Some people buy synths for other reasons, like maybe they want to really go deep into sound design. I would say there are better options for that. In this price range, you have the HydroSynth Explorer. I've owned it in the past. I thought it was fun to do sound design, but honestly, this one is more approachable for me. Also, if you go for the HydroSynth, you're giving up on the 1 key feature of the synth. Again, this synth solves the #1 issue I've had with every hardware synth I've owned in the past. When I make music in collaboration with Anders, the other half of Sineway, this is the synth that I plug in. I don't think that there's any song that we've made in the past 6 months that hasn't been a pure Syntact or Digitone song where we haven't used the MiniFreak in one shape or form. It is always finding its way into our production. In summary, the MiniFreak is revolutionary because it has shifted our focus to actually making music. I hope that was helpful. If it was, I would appreciate the like and subscribe. Also, check out my other content, tutorials and reviews, and also my Patreon. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.